Kerry. Thank you very much for inviting me to come along today. I really appreciate the chance to have a talk to the members, and a big thanks to everyone that's committed a bit of time to this. I've got a lot of respect for people that like to expand their knowledge and learn about current technologies and current information. So thanks for making some time to join us, and same with the people that are listening into the recording. I hope to give you guys a bit of an education today about the stuff that I know about and how it can help the trade and help grow our businesses and make them more efficient, more effective. So as Kerry mentioned, I'm a plumber by trade. So my business partner and I were running a plumbing business on the northern beaches of Sydney for quite a while, and we were always looking for a way to run our business electronically. We looked at the option of having laptops out in the field. We were doing, I guess, traditional plumbing works, a lot of maintenance, a lot of construction. Dave, my business partner, was running the maintenance side of the business. I was taking care of all the construction stuff, looking after the builders, and we were doing lots of new homes and renovations. So we had a good mix, and laptops out in the field just weren't really a viable option for us. A bit too fragile, network connections weren't too good. So when the iPad came along, we jumped on those and got a couple of those in our hands and started to look at putting some of the tools that we were currently using. So we thought we'll be able to put MIOB on here, and we'll put Excel and Word and all that stuff. But of course, none of that stuff worked on an iPad back then. So we then started to look at some of the apps that were available, and we were looking for things that could help us replace the bottlenecks that we had in the business, so all the paper bottlenecks, because that was what was causing all the headaches and the troubles with our business, was all the paper and all the processes. We had job cards and diaries and invoice books and our quote books, all that stuff you can see on the screen, and we're looking for a way to replace that with electronic tools. We wanted to be paperless. So it took quite a while, but we put together a number of apps that meant that we could replace all these bottlenecks. And before we knew it, well, it took about 6 months to get it all up and running and finalised, but we were running paperlessly. And it was a real game changer. It made the business more efficient, more effective, changed our personal lives, because we were able to get all our admin work done out in the field instead of having to sit in the office at night and punch it all into the computer. And it made the business a whole lot more professional as well. We noticed a real distinct change in the way that clients were I guess, viewing the way the business was running, and made a real change to the impression that we had on our clients. So all those things combined, it really made me realise that what I'd done for our business was pretty cool, and it was something that I could help other tradies to do. So I started up TradiePad, and I went from full-time plumbing to a day a week helping out my mates, getting them set up, and then 2 days a week and 3 days a week. And before I know it, here we are now today with a whole team of people. We've got hundreds of clients all over the country in all different sectors of the construction and service industries, and we've developed relationships with a whole range of software companies. So you can see, should be able to see some icons up on the screen, some app icons up on the screen. This is some of the products that we work with. But we've developed relationships with all these software companies now, and we provide a service to our clients where we help them piece together all these little bits and pieces. It might be one solution, it might be a combination of a few bits and pieces, but we've developed these relationships so that we can understand what the softwares can do and what they can't do, and then we can help our clients work out what one's going to work for them, what solution's going to work for them, and help them roll it out so that it can work for their business and make their business more efficient, more effective, just like it made our business. So we now create what we call a business operating platform. And the business operating platform is made up of a number of components. It's not just as simple as downloading a couple of apps and away you go. You've got to have a bit of a plan in place on how you're going to structure your platform, focusing around technology. So it's mobile devices have been a big driving, motivating factor in this whole kind of adoption into the industry. because it's the mobile devices that are giving us the power to collect the data out in the field and feed it back to the office. So the first thing that we look at is the devices that are getting used, so the phones and the tablets and laptops and desktop computers. And when we're talking about devices, the network goes alongside with that, so which operating network or which telco provider you're with. And once we've got all that stuff sorted out, then we'll have a look at the communication side of the business, so electronic communication, your email platform, and how that's operating. Make sure you've got that working in a way that it's all synchronized. And a lot of times alongside your email communications, you've got some storage facilities, cloud storage. So I'm going to talk about each one of these in a bit of detail. But the first two are very important, but the last one there, the operational and financial software, is what we call the core of the platform. And it's the tools that you use day in, day out to run the business, both the operations of the business and the financial side of the business. So we'll have a bit of a look today at some of the solutions that we work with from the operational side, so job management tools and project management tools. And we'll have a bit of a talk about the financial tools as well and how they kind of fit together and what they do. But once you've got this platform in place, this business operating platform, we guarantee it becomes the most used and most powerful tool in your toolbox because it gets used on every single job, every single day of every guy, every person that's working with you. So it's a real game changer for the industry. It's really driving the progression and the efficiency and the professionalism of the industry, and it's certainly something I'm very passionate about, is helping the industry drive forwards and adopt the technology to make us better business people. So the first thing we'll look at is devices and network. So I mentioned before that it's all around, primarily focused on the mobile devices, because that's what's giving us the ability to get rid of our diaries and our job cards and books and stuff out in the field, because we can start recording this stuff electronically. But it's also your laptops and desktops in the office, and having all of those working together so that it doesn't matter which device you have with you, you're able to access all of your business-related information. So you might have your phone in your pocket and you're halfway up a ladder and you need to get someone's phone number. It's not very safe, but you certainly have that capability with the tools that we have at our disposal. You can pull up a file or a photo or something that's been recorded by somebody else, and you've got access to all of that stuff no matter where you are and what device you've got with you. So getting all of the devices configured and set up correctly so they're working as one is the main focus for this section. But then alongside that is your network. So depending on where the majority of your work is, whether you're working in metropolitan areas or if you're working in regional areas, you make a decision on which telco provider, which network provider you're going to have. If you're working in regional areas, you've got to make sure you've got every possible chance to get a good network connection when you're out in the field, because all the software and the solutions that we work with are cloud-based solutions, which means that they run online and they require a network connection to be able to operate, operate properly. So we make sure that you've got the right network in place, and we have relationships with a whole range of business networks or business centres around the country for all the different telco providers, and we can provide introductions to business centres where you get assigned an account manager, which is a very, very handy contact to have, because that person, when we start talking about rolling out devices in the business, tablets and phones and iPads and all that stuff, we need to have someone that we can talk to if we need a new one, or we need to get something changed, or we've got a problem with our bill, or you've got a massive bill that's got lots of data on it that you need to try and get sorted out, data charges. So having a network account manager is a fantastic business contact that can help manage that side of your business, and certainly goes hand in hand with all the stuff that we're talking about today. So the last thing to mention here is when we've got devices out there in the field, whether they're phones or tablets, whatever they are, there's a bit of an outlay in costs, hardware costs there. We want to make sure that they're protected. So having some good protection on your device is really important. So having some tradie-proof cases, we like to call them, is very handy. Dust-proof shockproof, waterproof as well. I've mentioned it in a number of sessions and seminars I've done, but being a plumber, there was numerous occasions I had my phone in my top pocket, and you bend over and all of a sudden, bloop, your phone falls into the toilet, which is always exciting. But when you've got a case on there that's waterproof, you can whip it out of the toilet, wash it off, and get the next phone call and say you've got another job, which is also very hygienic. But at least you're not having to go out and get a new phone in the middle of the day, which is a bit of a nightmare. So having some protection on your device is very, very important. We've got to make sure that they're going to withstand the knocks and the abuse that they're going to get on the job sites. So once we've sussed out the devices and the network, we have a bit of a look at the communication side of the business and cloud storage. So communication is primarily around emailing. Everyone emails nowadays with work orders and sending out invoices and sending out quotes. Having a good, solid email platform is very, very important because you don't want to lose. You want to find that emails are going missing or emails are not getting through, and to tie in with with the devices we were talking about before. We want to make sure that you can access all your emails on any of the devices that you have. So if you're out in the field and you need to find an email that you've sent from your computer in the office, with the right platform, you can have that functionality where you can access all emails that you've ever sent or ever received on any device. So you get that synchronization. And another focus here is the actual email address that you're using. We deal with lots of clients that start their business using a Gmail address or a Hotmail address or an OptusNet or Big Pond or something like that, and that's fine for if you're a one-man band or you're just running a little business. But if you want to have a bit more professionalism, you want to have a bit of an online presence and have a website, having an email address that ties to your website or ties to your business name is very important for professionalism. So if we come across a client that has that functionality where they've got a Big Pond or an OptusNet, we can help get that professional email address set up and then get it configured in a way that it's all synchronized across all your devices. So one of the tools that we use for that is a thing called Google Apps. And Google Apps is a whole suite of services that Google manages, and one of which is, or the primary one is email, but there's a whole range of other components in there as well. One being a thing called Google Drive, which is a storage facility. So you can store any kind of file in Google Drive, and you can then access that on all your different devices. So I might take some photos and store them in Google Drive on my phone, and as soon as they're saved in Google Drive on my phone, they're instantly available on my tablet, on my laptop, on my desktop. You can share those out with numerous people. So it's a way of storing your information so you can access it, but also collaboration, so you can collaborate with other people within your business, or you could share them out to your clients or whatever it might be. So it's sharing and accessibility, but it's also storage and backup. So backup is a really important one. I've got lots of clients that have had that horrible situation where the computer hard drive has crashed and they've lost lots and lots and lots of information. So that can be avoided nowadays through the use of cloud storage. Dropbox is another great cloud storage tool. Box.com is another one. But they're kind of storage on their own. Google Drive's great because it gives you document editing and document creation capability, just like Microsoft Word and Excel, and accessibility to those documents and files and stuff on all your different devices. But it doesn't matter which cloud storage facility you go with, as long as you've got something that's storing all that company-wide information, so that if something does happen to your phone or your tablet or your hard drive crashes, it doesn't matter. You can go and buy a new device. You can sign in with a username and password, and all of that information is comes back down to your device. So security is always one that gets raised. Cloud solutions, are they safe? Are they secure? And it's a very valid question because you do hear some stories here and there. But with the right tools, so something like Dropbox or something like Box.com or Google Drive, they all use banking level security, banking level encryption, so that the chances of your data getting compromised are very, very low. because these companies are in the business of keeping your information, keeping your data. So they do everything possible to make sure that that doesn't get compromised, because if it does, they're not doing their job properly and they go out of business. So security is always at the forefront with these guys. And as an example, Google Apps is currently used by Woolworths to run all of their operations, and it's also in use by the American Army. So the American Army is using Google Drive to run their communications and collaboration and operations. So if they trust it, I'm sure my little plumbing company is going to be all right. So devices and network communication and cloud storage are the first two things that we address, and then we get into the core of the platform, which is our operational and our financial software. So our operational software is the tools that we use to manage our client records, manage our jobs, manage our projects, manage the scheduling, keeping all the job information or project information together in one place. It's basically our operational tools that get used day in, day out. And the financial software is the tools that you use to count your money in and out of your business, handle your payroll, do all your bean counting, and having these two tools talking to each other is really important. So that's where we work closely with a lot of the cloud-based financial tools, cloud-based financial software like Xero, as you can see on the screen. Xero is pretty much charging ahead with the cloud-based solutions, or cloud-based financial solutions. They were the original tool that came out that allowed you to access all your financial information online, and they've built Xero in a way that it sits there as the hub of the financial data for your company, but it can integrate with other things. So integration is a really important point here, because a lot of the stuff that you do in your operational software overlaps with what you do in your financial software. So for example, we might create a job, and that job has some time logged against it and some materials logged against it, and we then create an invoice for that job. We want that invoice to then get sent to the client, but we want that to feed into our financial software, so we're not having to do any double entry of data. So duplication is something that I see all the time with our clients, and something that's a massive waste of time. Duplication is what we want to eliminate: double entry, triple entry, whatever it might be. And the way that Xero is built now, the way that QuickBooks Online and MYOB Live are created, they can integrate with other products. So other products can bolt onto the side and feed information in and out. So we can achieve single entry of information, enter some contact details for a client, create a job, create an invoice. That flows straight into the accounting package and goes to where it needs to go. So that's why we group these two components together, because it's important that they can talk to each other and work as one. Because, as I said, it's the core of the platform. So when we're considering what operational tools are going to work for a business, down the bottom there I've got Keep It Simple. There's a lot of products out there that have lots of fancy bells and whistles that look good, but on the during day-to-day operations, are they actually going to get used? So it's something to have a look at. Don't get sucked in by all the fancy stuff when it's not really something that's practical for you or is actually going to get used. How is the software, how are the operational software being accessed and being operated? Do we have someone in the office all the time that can run this thing, or are we going to be having to run this completely from the field? So that's a very big consideration. Scalability is another one. How big do we want the business to get to? Are we going to end up with, if we're maybe a plumbing or electrical business, we're going to have 20 trucks on the road, 30 trucks on the road? If so, you want to put a tool in place now that can allow you to grow to the size that you want to get to. So having a bit of an idea of the scalability of a product is important, and integration is the main one. So having the ability to feed the data in and out of the financial software so that we can make the information flow as easy as possible. So let's have a little bit of a look at some apps now. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. I'm going to be switching screens and bringing my iPad up on the screen so we can have a bit of a look at some demos. but I'm going to have a look at a mix of products here. I know we have a bit of a range of attendees today, so we'll look at some job management tools, we'll have a look at some project management tools, and then we'll have a look at a few little apps that we call apps that fill the gaps. Sketch and My Measures are two great little photo editing tools that let you take photos and then edit those and draw on them and do that kind of stuff. So that's quite a unique feature you don't find in many of the job management tools. So that's something that we've got lots of clients using. Report Monster is a great little report builder that lets you create photo-based reports. And then Easy Build's another really functional app that lets you manage plans. So from the job management perspective, we'll have a quick look at TradiePad, which is a good entry-level job management tool for a typical smaller plumber, electrician, trade business. And then SimPro, which is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, which is more applicable to larger businesses that have more people, have more requirements and more complexity. And then from the project side of things, we'll have a look at Workflow Max, where we have Workflow Max in use by a lot of builders, and it's a good general project management tool that focuses on financial management, and Builder Trend, which is a more specific builder, hence the name Builder Trend, builder-focused project management tool that manages the construction projects from go to where, and has a lot of strength around scheduling and communications. So let me just get my screen up here, and we'll have a little bit of a look at TradiePad first up. So let me switch into another application here. Okay, so is that coming through okay, Kerry? Are we all clear with TradiePad up on the screen now?
Yeah, I can see it. If people out there can also see it, just put a yes in the chat box.
Fantastic.
But I can definitely see it. So.
Wonderful, very good. Okay, so TradiePad is a typical cloud-based solution, meaning that it runs online. So I've accessed TradiePad through a web browser on my computer. So I can sign in. I've opened up Safari. I sign in with a username and a password, and I can then access all of the jobs and all of the records and all of our settings and stuff. So this is typically what gets used in the office, and then out in the field, there's an app that gets used on iPhone, an iPad, Android phone, and Android tablet. But the concept of this is that we can create jobs, and when we create a job, that job has some customer information and customer details. We've got a description of what we need to do. Every job gets a job number, and we can then start to schedule these jobs. So once we've created the job, we can schedule it. We can drop it onto a calendar. We can schedule it for a day and a time. We can create multiple appointments for people, for jobs, sorry. So we might make one visit, we might make 5 visits, but you can create these appointments for these jobs and assign them to your staff members, and they can then receive this job information on their device out in the field. Now they might have a phone, they might have a tablet, whatever it is, but the app that they use out in the field is used to then interact with those jobs and log things like time and materials and photos and notes. So it's a replacement for the typical job card or service docket or whatever it is that might be used in the paper process. So one of the key things with TradiePad though is that this scheduler that we're looking at on the screen is also fully visible and fully functional via the app out in the field. So I'm going to open up we're just having a very quick look at these apps today. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but let me bring my iPad up on the screen. Bear with me for a second while I get this up and running. But on my iPad, I have the TradiePad app, which I have downloaded from the App Store. And with the TradiePad app, if I am the business owner, I can use the app to create jobs, create customers, manage the scheduling, manage the invoicing, manage the quotes. So I can do all of the stuff, job kind of operations related, on my iPad out in the field. Now this is a really key thing for TradiePad, and this is what makes TradiePad so suitable for smaller trade businesses, because they as the business owner can run the business from the field. So I can view the scheduler, I can create jobs, I can move appointments around, I can drag this across to Saturday and change the appointment, and then I can go into that job and we can look at logging information. So I can log time, I can log materials, I can look at notes on the job. So notes might be photos that someone's taken, it might be a work order that I've been sent that I need to save to the job. So it gives us the ability to keep all that job-related information together in one place. So in the notes section, I could have a work order, I could have some photos, whatever it might be. I've got time, I've got materials, I can create an invoice, I can create quotes, you can create purchase orders. And the purchase orders and the bills, this is where the integration and the invoicing, this is where the integration to the accounting system comes into play, where if I raise an invoice for a job, that can push automatically into the accounting system, and that creates the invoice in the accounting system without me having to do any extra effort or any extra information. So it's single entry of data that's flowing to wherever it needs to flow to, and big focus around time and materials for TradiePad. So very good for typical trade businesses that are tracking time and tracking materials. Now, in comparison to SimPro, so let me bring my screen up now with SimPro. So I'll just switch over now to SimPro. Now SimPro is similar functionality to TradiePad in that it's tracking, it's creating jobs, it's managing scheduling, it's tracking time and tracking materials, but has a lot more capability around material management. So I can import a supplier catalog into my SimPro account. So I can have a full supplier catalog in here, or broken up into groups, subgroups, and I can see all these different items, and it also keeps track of stock levels. So I have full inventory control with this, so you can keep a track of what stock level you have on which vehicles, in which warehouses. So it's got full inventory management capability and the integration to supplier catalogs and supplier invoicing. So a bit more capable around the material side of things, and a lot more capable around the reporting side of the business. So very detailed reports within SimPro that allow us to monitor and manage metrics within the business and get really good detailed data and detailed information. But one of the things to consider with SimPro is that it's very dependent upon having somebody at this web console that we're looking at on my screen, because the web console is the driving tool. This is the thing that we use to create events and manage the scheduling, create jobs, manage the scheduling, manage the materials. So this can be operated off a tablet out in the field, but it's designed to be operated with a mouse on a desktop or a laptop computer, and it works really well with two screens. So this is typically for the slightly larger business that has someone in the office that can run operations and keep a track of, running the business and everything from the office. So either end of the spectrum there's lots of tools that sit in between these. We work with ServiceMate, we work with a whole range of different products that all look quite similar on the outside, but they all operate slightly differently inside, and they all suit different businesses. So it's a matter of finding the right one to suit your needs, and we'll talk a bit more about that a little bit later on. So we looked at TradiePad, we've looked at SimPro. Now we'll have a little bit of a look at the project management tools. Now the difference between these job management tools and the project management tools is that the job management tools have a lot of focus on scheduling and a lot of focus on managing your resources on an hourly basis. So being able to schedule them and track time by the hour and see where your guys are. Whereas project management is more about tracking an ongoing project, still tracking time and tracking materials, but less focus on scheduling and more focus on detailed reporting on components of your projects. So this is WorkflowMax that I've got up on the screen now. WorkflowMax is a great project management tool from a financial perspective. So it tracks the financials of your projects extremely well, because it's all about tracking tasks, which are time related, and costs, which is anything else on the project which isn't time related. So I'm looking at my job list here. I've got lots of random job information in here because it's my demo account. I'm going to go into one of these jobs. Let's look at job 28 because I've got a lot of information in here. So job 28 has a job number. This is automatically created, or it can be manually created. We have a customer that we're working for. We've got the address of the job. We can see the status or the state of the job, and we've got an overall start date and a completion date. And then we've got a little indicator here that's telling us how we're tracking on the job. So this is telling me that we are 119% of our estimated time allowance. So it's very focused on tracking time, and this is a great tool for anyone that wants to start keeping a track of your workers' times and how long they're spending not only on the entire project but on sections of the project. Because scrolling down the screen here, we go past the basic project information, schedule information. We've got some milestones, single dates when things need to be achieved by, but we have some tasks. So these tasks, we have as many tasks or as few tasks as we want, but the tasks allow our workers in the field to log time, and this can be done on a phone or a tablet. It can be done either by the individual workers or it can be done by supervisors, but we can track individual workers' time against each one of these tasks. So you can say, right, on demolition, we'd estimated 32 hours of labour. We've actually recorded 25 hours and 30 minutes so far, so we've got 6 hours and 30 minutes left. So this little green or blue bar is showing us that we're at 79% of completion of the allowed time for that particular task. Our base stage, we had 10 hours estimated. We've actually recorded 18 hours and 40 minutes, so we've blown the budget by 8 hours and 40 minutes. So it gives you that instant view of how we're tracking. And then if I drill down on one of these tasks, you can create some little checklist items, some to-do items in there. If I drill down on the task and we go to the timesheet section, we can see the timesheet entries that have been created, the dates, who it was that entered them, and the time, the amount of time that they recorded. So this is tracking the time of the workers to the job, but also to the task within the job. So it's giving some really good capability to start monitoring. Okay, if we're estimating and quoting our work, we want to see how we're tracking on that work. See whether we're over or under, if we're doing our dough on certain sections of the project. So it starts giving you some really good metrics and some really good tools to measure your projects, not only from a time perspective, but also from a cost perspective. So costs are anything that isn't time related. So subbies that you use, your plumbers and electricians that you're using that are invoicing you, any materials that you're purchasing, you start logging those as costs, and it keeps a track of the total costs for the whole project. I'll scroll down. That's my total cost for this project so far for anything that's not directly time related. And we can make it even more granular than that by tracking costs by cost center. So we can create these folders that we can start putting tasks and costs into to track the various cost centers within the project. And we can run reports. So, okay, we estimated 40 grand for externals, and so far we've used this much in labour, this much in material, we've got this much left to do. So again, it starts giving you more detail and more monitoring capability on how you're actually tracking from a financials perspective on this particular job. And one last thing to look at in here is timesheets. So when that time gets logged against a job and against a task within that job, that feeds into this centralized timesheet area where I can see all my workers down the left-hand side, I can see all my days across the top, and I can then see how many hours each worker is logging each day. So everyone's been very lazy this week. Monday we've got no time, and Tuesday we've got no time. This is the problem with the demo account. But you can see on a daily basis how many hours everybody's logging. So in the past, with traditional paper timesheets, the timesheets get handed in once a week, or once a fortnight, however frequently, and it's not until that day that they get handed in that you know what time was spent on which jobs and which days and whatever. Whereas this is giving us that live feed of data every day. You can see who's logged their time, who hasn't. If they haven't done it, send them a text message, tell them to put their times in, and it's very, very simple to enter times. A little mobile app on the phone that lets you choose a date, choose a job, choose a task, enter your time, either a start time and a finish time, or just a quantity of hours. You hit submit and it's done. It literally takes 20 seconds to log your time for the day. So very simple for the guys in the field, and that's one of the key things to consider is if you're looking at changes to your business and asking your workers to change their current processes, it's much, much easier to get them to adopt it if what they're doing, if what you're asking them to do is easier than what they're currently doing. Otherwise, it ends up being a little bit of a hurdle. So big focus for us is to make sure that the current processes or the new processes are easier than the current processes. So this is that's a very quick run through on Workflow Max, and the last one we'll have a look at is Build a Trend, which takes on from where I guess Workflow Max leads off. It's not quite as strong in the financial tracking as Workflow Max is, but it has a lot more strength around the scheduling and the communication side of things. So Workflow Max is I guess primarily focused on tracking the financials, whereas Build a Trend has the ability to allow your owners, your clients, if you're a builder and you've got a client that you're working for, you can allow them to access Build a Trend to be able to see things like site diaries and daily logs and selection requests and variations, any notifications you want them to see, any invoices that have been raised. So you can allow your clients to log in and access, you can control what they can access and what they can't access, but it gives you a really good communication conduit between you and your client. And depending on the type of work that you're doing as a builder, a lot of builders really lack in that communication area, and that can cause a lot of dramas, a lot of issues within projects when you don't have that good channel of communication open. So great tool for communication with your clients, but also communication with your subbies, your subcontractors, because when you create a job, so at the moment I'm looking at this Taylor new build job, and this is the dashboard for the Taylor new build job. I can see a to-do list, I can see reminders, I can see today's schedule, things that are happening today. You can schedule items and you can assign them to a particular person, a particular subcontractor, or a particular customer, a particular company that works for you. So you can schedule those, and that can be communicated out to the subcontractor to give them information about when they're required on site and where the project's up to. So very good communication tool for client communication, but also subcontractors. And because it's been created specifically for builders, it's got a lot of capability around variations. They call them change orders, but variations. So you can log a variation and then provide that to the customer. Customer can view it, can approve it or decline it or question it, whatever it might be, but it tracks all your variations and it keeps a track of the project cost. So what your contracted price was, how much there has been in change orders or variations, how much there has been in selections, either over or under, and the current total of the project. So very quick view on the current project cost, and we can then drill down on each one of these components to start seeing a bit more information. So for example, I'll go into the budget section. We can map out budgeted allowances for all of our different cost centers within the project. So I'll wait for this to load up. We go into budget, and down here I can see my budgeted allowances for each of the different cost codes or the different cost centers. So we can put an estimated figure. We can then start raising purchase orders for each one of those cost centers and issuing those either to our suppliers or to our subcontractors or whoever they might be. And as the invoices start coming in against those purchase orders, it starts tracking our unders and overs for the different cost centers, and of course keeping a track of that as a whole, project running total, approved change orders, contract price, all that stuff. So not quite as strong from a financial reporting perspective as Workflow Max, but still very good at tracking your costings and your purchase orders and your variances between your cost centers. But one of the really good strengths is the scheduling side of Build a Trend. So we have a full calendar view here. where we can see all our different things that are occurring. There's the tasks, and each of these tasks can be given a start date and a completion date. They're assigned to a particular person, so it might be the plumber, it might be the electrician, whoever it is. But you can view this either as a calendar view, or if I go to this Gantt view, I can see the project mapped out as a Gantt chart with dependencies and assignments of resources, who they're assigned to, and we can start viewing the project as a whole with the whole schedule mapped out in front of us. We can make changes to one of the tasks, and that can then push out all the other components, and it can notify the subcontractor, whoever's assigned to it, notify them that something's changed. So very good kind of combination between the scheduling and the communications. So this is one of the key benefits of Buildertrend that I can see, is that it really gives you a lot of power around that side of your projects and managing the ongoing schedules and project plans and communications, not only with the clients but also with the with your subcontractors. So there's lots more to Buildertrend. Again, I just wanted to do a quick overview, highlight the difference between the different tools that we've got there: WorkflowMax, Buildertrend. And again, it's a matter of finding the right tool for the job, the one that's going to suit your needs, suit your budget, suit you moving forwards with where you want to take the business. So I'll just switch back to my presentation, and we'll have a little bit of a look now at the next section. So it's now all about finding the right tool for the job. So the right tool that's going to fit your operations and fit your business, and start building that business operating platform and getting it set up, getting it configured, getting you trained, and your staff, if you had staff, getting them trained up and educated about how this stuff is going to help them, how it's going to help you, so that you're using it as efficiently and effectively as possible. So I constantly see clients that have gone down the path of a certain, they've gone down one path because they thought it might have been the right tool for them, but then just realised that maybe this other tool might have been a better solution because it could do this, it could do that, and unfortunately they have to learn it the hard way. A lot of wasted time, a lot of wasted effort on learning something and getting data into it to only realise that it's the wrong choice. So making that decision initially, it's not something you should make lightly. Really needs a bit of guidance and a bit of assessment to make sure you're making the right choice. So that's really our strength. That's where we come in. We have a very defined process that we work through whenever we work with a client to help them find the right solution. So the first step is a scoping session, and we spend some time with our clients to learn about their business, what they do, how they do it, what the key components are that they need. And then we help guide them on a path of discovery of what the right tool is for them and why it's the right tool. And we can then provide training, set up and training around that product once we've come to the right conclusion. So the first step is scoping, and then we'll provide a proposal around our services as a training organisation, helping get the tool set up, getting everybody educated about how to use it, both from an office or an admin perspective, but also from a field perspective, and not just the software, it's also hardware training as well. So training on devices, learn all the little shortcuts of using your apps on your phone and your tablet and your iPad and whatever you've got, and learning how to use these tools to their potential. And we also provide, once all this is all set up and it's all working and operational, we provide ongoing support, and more than just support, ongoing education. Because this is a real changing atmosphere with software, the type of software or the way that the software is created being cloud-based. There's constantly new features and new functions getting added to all of the stuff that we work with. So we kind of position ourselves as the IT department or the IT educator for our clients. We keep them up to date with what the stuff is doing, how it's working, anything new that's coming out. So we're providing support when there's problems, but also education, ongoing education. We provide that on an ongoing basis to make sure that you're using the tools to their potential. So we got any questions that have popped up there, Kerry? I haven't seen anything come through yet.
Jade asked, does Workflow Max integrate with MYOB?
That's a very good question. Very good question. And the answer, unfortunately, is, well, it depends on what we're talking about from an integration perspective. There is an export and import functionality into MYOB, but what I consider an integration is where there's no exporting and importing that's required. There's the ability for the information to just flow between the two tools, and Workflow Max and MYOB don't have that functionality. Because the main reason there is that Workflow Max is owned by Xero. So they have a beautiful integration to Xero, but of course, being owned by Xero, they want anyone that's using Workflow Max, they'd like them to use Xero as well. So there is an export-import functionality, but there's not what I would call an integration between the two where the data just flows between them, unfortunately. Anything else there, Kerry?
No other questions at the moment.
Wow. Okay, very good. So the next step is, I mean, I've been through a few of the products, but now it's a matter of, I guess, you making a move to say, yeah, I want to embrace a bit of technology into my business. We can help with that. We can most definitely help with that with a scoping session. But I guess the first step is we can send out a bit of a technology checklist to put you on the right path, make sure you're looking at the right things. So I'm happy to send out this checklist that we've put together that outlines the components we've spoken about today in a bit more detail. And if you're interested in then taking it a bit further, we've got some contact information on the checklist on how to contact us and book in a scoping session so that we can learn about your business and help you on that path of enlightenment about the right tool for your company. So if you are, anyone that's listening, if you are interested in getting your hands on that TradiePad technology checklist, you can note down this mobile number. Just send us a text with your name, and business name and email address. Send it through to that mobile number. And we'll be happy to send through the checklist. Or Kerry, if you're happy, I'd be happy to provide that checklist to you, and you can push out to the members.
Yeah,
anyone that's attended or registered.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep, I can email that out to participants. Clinton, you
Awesome.
mentioned that app that you can use to was it Stitcher?
Oh goodness me, I've missed a whole section.
Yeah.
Holy
I think
moly.
you are.
Lucky. Lucky we've still got 8 minutes to go.
That's right.
Goodness me. Okay, let me just bring the presentation down, and I'll bring my iPad back up on the screen. So just bear with me for a second to get this one back up. And here we go. So my iPad should be back up on the screen any second now. There we go. Okay, so we've got a few apps. We've got Sketch and we've got My Measures. So I've got this little folder here of all these little toolbox apps. So Sketch is a photo editor, so it allows me to take photos. And once I've taken the photo, that's a good example. Once I've taken the photo, I can then draw on that photo. So you've got arrow tools, and you've got text tools, you've got a little pen tool that lets you draw on it. So a picture tells 1,000 words, but when you incorporate this kind of capability, it can tell a whole story. You know, so being able to annotate, this is called annotation. You can annotate the photo to add a whole lot more to it. And you can then pass this on to the client to highlight a certain issue or a certain problem or a certain variation, whatever it might be. So this is kind of just a basic photo editor or photo annotator. And the next kind of step on from this is a very similar app. My Measures is a photo editor, but primarily for measurements. So it allows you to take a photo and you can then drop measurements onto the photo. So it doesn't actually measure it for you, but it lets you put these little arrows on here, and the arrows you can then enter manually, get your tape measure out and measure it, but you can, or you wouldn't be measuring a roof, but you can put measurements on here, and these measurements can then be used for calculation purposes. So there's a whole series of calculation tools that can calculate up total measurements or square roots or volumes or squares or whatever it might be. So it allows you to put those measurement tools onto the image and then use these calculation tools to give you totals. So I've got a lot of plumbers that use this, and electricians that will rough in a wall, and prior to closing up the wall, you'll take a photo and then just put measurements on there of how far the pipes are off the corners or off the floor or off the ceiling, whatever it might be, so that when the wall gets closed up, you want to put your shower, you want to put shower rails in, or put your shower screens or whatever. You can, you take measurements and you can see where the pipes are, or measure where the pipes are. So very, very simple tool, but really powerful for providing to your clients and providing to builders and stuff. So two very simple photo editing tools. And from this one, we go on to Report Monster, which is more of a reporting generator, but again, it's very photo-based. So just make this full screen. Very photo-based. So let me just go back to the first section of this. Go back to the home. So I can create reports with this, but they're photo-based reports. So I can take a photo, I can draw on the photo, I can put text. I've got this text box down the bottom where I can put a bit more detail about what this photo relates to. But it's not just one photo. You can have a whole series of pages. So this is page 1 of 7. So if I go next page, you can see I've got some taps that were dripping and a whole heap of information about these taps, what has to happen. And next page is a photo of a hot water heater, and there was a leak coming from one of the pipes, so you can do an inset photo, bit of text, bit of information down here, and then the next page, there's the globe that's out. And you can also build in these kind of form questions as well, multiple choice, free text fields, check boxes, date fields, all sorts of little tools there. And you can also pull in overhead views of your current location, and you can draw on that good if you're having to put forward a sewer rerun or a wiring rerun or something for a property. So this creates a multi-page photo-based report which you can then send off to your client. So you can imagine as a property owner or a property manager, you get this kind of information from your trades. This is gold, because as a property manager, you pass this on to your owner, and the owner thinks you're God, because you're giving them so much more information, so much visibility about their property, about what's going on and what's required. Typically in the past, it's been, it might be a report, paper report, or it might be a verbal over the phone. But when you start getting stuff like this, it's a whole new ballgame, and it wins so much more work, and it really cements you as a preferred supplier to your clients when you start being able to present stuff like this to them. So simple app, but very, very powerful results. So that's Report Monster, and the last one we'll have a bit of a look at is Easy Build. So Easy Build, I've got lots of builders using this, lots of plumbers, lots of sparkies. So let me just zoom out a little bit. I'll close this down. So this is a plan management, This is a plan management tool. So it allows me to import a set of plans. And once I've imported the plans, I can then set a scale. So I'll open up this floor plan. I can set a scale. So I set my scale length to a known length on the drawing. So I've got a long length there, which shows on the drawing is 28.28 meters. So I move these little markers so that it's lined up exactly with the line there. And then once we've configured that known length, we set the scale and lock it, and then we can start measuring things. So this kitchen here, being a plumber, they never put any measurements on the drawings for center of the sinks or anything like that. So I want to know where to bring my drainage up underneath the sink, or the power up because it's an island bench. So I can start to measure this. I can choose measure, and then I can drop these little markers onto the plans. Move this one. I want to go from inside wall to center of sink. Move the little marker so it's center of the sink, and then I go from point to point, and it tells me the distance. So that's 2,895.053 millimeters. So it's pretty accurate. And not only can we do lineal measurements, but we can do perimeters, and we can do square meters, areas. So let me just reset that. So we go from point to point to point to point to point, and it gives us a perimeter. and gives us a square meterage for that particular area. So very handy for on-site work, but also for your initial takeoff. If you're not using, if you're a builder or a plumber or whatever, and you don't have takeoff software currently, this is great because it's a good introduction to being able to measure off plans and do a takeoff for lineal measurements in square meters. You might be doing roofing, you want to know square meters of the roof, you might be doing concreting. This app was actually built by a concreter who wanted a way to measure up all of his slabs for his various jobs. So very, very powerful, not only out in the field, but also in the office when you're at that kind of initial quoting stage. You know, I might be running some pipes down the side of the house. I can go from point to point and then along the front of the house, and it tells us the total distance from that area. So very handy little tool, and another little app out of the App Store. So
Great.
Back to the presentation there. There we go. Back to the presentation. So any other questions that have popped up there, Kerry?
Yeah, I know some people are interested in how they can get, invoice on site, and how that can integrate to, say, MyOb. I know that a lot of our members have MyOb. So what sort of mobile devices can they use for that?
So TradiePad that we looked at and SimPro that we looked at, they both allow you to create invoices via your app on your device, on your phone or your tablet or whatever you have. So you can create those invoices, and they both integrate to MYOB Live, so the cloud version of MYOB. So MyOb has, they've got two versions. They have Account Right Live and they have Live Essentials. And those two cloud-based solutions have integrations to a number of the software products we work with, but the traditional MyOb desktop doesn't have a lot of capability around integration. There's a couple of products. ServiceMate that we work with has a good connector between ServiceMate and MyOb desktop that allows you to synchronize your invoices. So you can create an invoice in the ServiceMate app out in the field, and that can then save back to the office and can get synchronized into MyOb desktop on that particular computer. But it doesn't flow like it does when it's connecting up to the cloud version of MYOB. So if you're looking for that kind of flow of data, then it's a very good time, a very good, I guess, reason to look at switching to the cloud version. Because that's the only way that you're going to get that real flow of data and that maximum efficiency out of these apps that are going to be happening out in the field, is to have the cloud versions that allow that integration. So again, it's a case-by-case basis of what the best tool is. Of the cloud-based MYOB, TradiePad, SimPro, TradiePad, SimPro, ServiceMate, all those basic job management tools, or all of the job management tools, will integrate to the cloud versions of MYOB, but we don't see them integrating into the desktop versions. From the project management tools, Buildertrend integrates to Xero and to QuickBooks Online, but they haven't done any kind of an integration to MYOB at this stage, either the desktop version of MYOB or the cloud-based version of MYOB. So, and that's primarily because it's an American company, Buildertrend. So there's not a lot of calls for MYOB in the States, but Xero is pushing very hard in America, and QuickBooks Online, which is owned by Intuit, is absolutely gigantic in America. So they are the dominant player over there. So it's interesting. It's constantly evolving, though.
I guess over here it's sort of the reverse, isn't it? We have a lot of people using MyOb and few are using QuickBooks. I've got a couple of questions. Right. Brad asked, what was the name of the last measuring app you just showed?
Easy Build. So it's two words, and Easy Build can be found in the App Store, but it's an iPad app. So if you're looking for Easy Build on your phone, in the App Store, you won't see it. It only works on iPad, and they haven't created an Android version of Easy Build as yet. So it's iPad only at this stage.
Okay.
And Report Monster is the same. Report Monster is Apple, is iOS only. They haven't created an Android version yet at this stage either.
Okay, Dean asked, does your software or solutions work with data build?
It's a good question. Data builds are what I call a traditional software solution. It's a program-based solution that runs locally on a computer, installed on a computer, or run on a server. Typically data build's being used, I guess, in the initial stages for quoting and estimating and takeoff, and a bit of project management. But being a program-based solution, it's very difficult to have app-based products or app-based tools to integrate to a program on a particular computer or a particular server. So none of the tools that we've looked at today integrate to data build. Not to say that they won't in the future. Depends on where data build go with their planning and their roadmap. But none of the products that we've looked at today and none of the products that we work with within TradiePad integrate to data build in terms of feeding data in and out. But it just depends on what we're looking for. You know, if it's being able to compare quoted or estimated figures to actuals, then WorkflowMax does have the capability to import a file, so you can take an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file and import that into WorkflowMax to map out those estimated or quoted figures initially, and then we can start tracking actuals against that. So again, it's an export-import. It's not what I would call a true integration where it's feeding the data in and out, but we do have the ability to import and export certain types of files and certain types of things. So I hope that answers the questions for that one.
Yeah, and I realise we've sort of gone over the hours, so and I know people have got some specific questions, so if Clinton's happy to stay on the line, we will go through those, the questions that I have here, but I do realise some people probably do have to head off, so if you do, I wanted to thank you for joining us today. As I said, the recording will be up on our website shortly. If you're interested in my webinar for next week, just let me know, otherwise I'll be sending out an invitation shortly. But if you have any more questions for Clinton, just stay on. Clinton, I'm sure you don't have to rush off right yet. I've got a couple more.
A little bit more time.
A little bit more time, yep. Great. Dean asked, sorry, no, we just did Dean. Do any of the apps integrate with BuildSoft?
Same thing with same thing as data build. Same kind of situation. BuildSoft is a traditional program-based solution. I know they are actively moving to more capability around mobile devices, and I know they've built an integration to Xero, so there is that capability to feed the data straight into Xero. But I always I'm not quite sure what the benefit of BuildSoft feeding data into Xero is. BuildSoft's typically used for that estimating and takeoff and initial kind of mapping out of the values of the different cost centers of your project. So that doesn't really need to go into your accounting program in as such, I suppose, because when you're invoicing for a project that you've estimated or mapped out in BuildSoft, you're not invoicing the whole project in one go. You're not necessarily invoicing by cost center. You'd be doing progress claims. So it just depends on how BuildSoft's being used as to whether or not that integration to Xero is beneficial. But of all of the program-based estimating tools I've seen, BuildSoft is certainly the I think at the forefront of the current technology. But in terms of integrations to things like Buildertrend or WorkflowMax, no, there's nothing there. Again, you get that export-import capability, but there's no true integration.
Okay, and if I could just ask Gary. Gary typed in a question a bit earlier, but I just need some clarification on a couple of the terms he's used. So if Gary, you're listening, if you could just perhaps type your question back in the text box, that would be great. We've got, does Skitch Report Monster integrate with TradiePad in any way?
Yes, it does. So with Sketch, there's two different ways. It can go to TradiePad. You can do your drawing and you can then say open in TradiePad, and it will push that into TradiePad and it'll allow you to attach it to a job. Or something a bit more simple is to just do your drawing, take your photo and make your annotations, do your drawings, and then save that to your camera roll on your phone or your tablet, whatever you've got. And then once it's in your camera roll, you can just add it to the job as a photo. So it's easier to add it to the job as a photo than it is to take it, but there's a couple of different ways you can do that. And from the Report Monster side, it's a little bit trickier because Report Monster generates a PDF file, and the only way to access that PDF file is to email it out of Report Monster. So I've been pushing them for quite a while to enable a preview, a PDF preview, so that you could then take that and open it into TradiePad or into Simpro or whatever it might be. But at the moment, you can email it to yourself, and once you've got it in the email, you can then say open in TradiePad and save it against a job. So yeah, you've definitely got the ability to save it against a job record in TradiePad on a phone or a tablet or whatever you've got.
Okay, Clyde asked, what's the best option for pre-purchase inspection reports?
That's a little bit different to what we've looked at today. So reporting's a whole separate ballgame. You know, it depends on the complexity of the reports and the data gathering and what we want to do with those reports in the future, whether it's just saving it as a file for future reference, or we want to have it going into a database for future reporting and future kind of analytics. There's lots of form options and report options now. Report Monster is probably a very, very basic entry-level tool that will create a document, but it doesn't let you then report or mine that data later on. It's really just creates a document you can give to the client. If you ever need to find it, you can find the file and look back on it. But something like iAuditor, which is an app that runs on iPhone and iPad, Android phone and Android tablet, iAuditor lets you fully custom build form templates and collect data that then goes back into a database that you can then report on and extract from a laptop or a desktop computer. So it kind of takes it to the next level of capability around what you can do with the data. But then to take it to the next level, something like Formatize lets you create those custom forms with custom template capability and customization of the document template that gets presented to the clients, plus it gives you the data mining capability. So again, it depends on what the final requirements are, and this is a perfect example of why it's handy to do our scoping sessions, because we can start looking at a bit more detail on what the outcomes are that we need, and what's going to be most cost effective and scalable and all that stuff. So those three, again, we've got Report Monster, iAuditor, or Formatize as a solution.
Okay, Jennifer asked, are there any Android apps like Report Monster?
Not that I've found so far. I've been looking desperately because I get asked that question all the time. But no, not that I've found. iAuditor is probably the closest. So iAuditor you can create your templates and you can generate a similar looking report, but it's not as simple as Report Monster. So iAuditor is probably one to have a bit of a look at, but it's nowhere near the simplicity of what Report Monster has created. So I've been looking for a while, but I haven't found one.
Okay, Morgan asked, would you have any information around Fleetmatics?
Yes, we've had a few clients that have gone down the Fleetmatics path, but not all that successful. It's almost as capable as Simpro, what we looked at with Simpro, but not quite there. So it's a bit of a tricky question, because I've known the product for quite a while now. Fleetmatics used to be known as Connect to Field, and I knew the original founder of Connect to Field quite well, and it was a good little product when he had it. But it's kind of changed a little bit over the last couple of years. Yeah, I haven't had a lot of success. I haven't had a lot of successful clients with it in the past, so it's something that we stay away from. But in saying that, again, it's a matter of having the right tool for the job. So I'm sure it suits some businesses, just not any of the clients that we've worked with in the past and going forwards.
Okay, and the last question I have here is Gary's asked, could Clinton show us how quotes interface with job management software?
Quotes interface with job management software. So you can, with TradiePad, you can create a quote for a job, so you can enter time and enter costs to generate a quote document that you can provide to the client, and you can then give that to the client. The client can say, yep, let's go ahead, and if that then gets accepted, you can turn a quote into a job, which you can then schedule and assign to one of you guys, and you can log time against that and log materials, and TradiePad will compare what you had quoted or estimated versus what your actual time and actual costs have been. So it gives you that that comparison of estimated versus actual, and that's from a job management perspective. From a project perspective, similar kind of concept, but it's less around creating the quote on the spot. It's more kind of entering your quoted allowances for your different cost centers within your project. So with WorkflowMax, for example, you can enter your estimated amounts for all your different sections, framing, flooring, roofing, whatever, and you could potentially create a document to provide to your client, but typically those figures that get entered into WorkflowMax are used really just as a reference point, so that you can then compare estimated to actual cost, actual time and actual materials. So it just depends on whether it's projects or jobs that we're talking about, but it's the same kind of concept where you're taking, or you're entering a quoted or an allowance for a particular thing, whether it's a cost center or a job or whatever it is, and then tracking actuals against that, so actual time, actual materials, or actual costs. So it's probably a little bit vague, but I think I'd need a bit more detail on the type of work that we're talking about and the type of kind of application for it.
Yeah, and I guess all these apps, well, they're trying to make it as simple as possible when you're out in the field, aren't they? That I guess that's the point.
Yeah.
So that if you're trying to train your staff up, you want to minimise the amount of work they're doing, so you're not double handling work, and so they're trying to make it as simple as possible.
That's right. Single entry of data again. Keep it simple and make the information flow to where it needs to flow to.
Great. Well, I don't have any more questions, so unless somebody is madly typing away, I know Clinton probably has to shoot off. He's booked up back to back. So thank you, Clinton, for spending time with us today. Morgan said to say thank you. And if people are interested in getting in contact with Clinton, he's got his phone number on the screen there. So just get in contact directly with Clinton, and I will be sending out the copy of the checklist that Clinton will provide me. So thank you everybody for joining us, and I hope you have a good afternoon or morning, depending on where you are in Australia. And thank you, Clinton.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Cheers.